Daniel Jacobs, John Ryder, welcome to our second official boxing prediction here at Boxing MMA Picks. He goes by the name of Zan, I go by the name of Harris, and we're going to do what we usually do, give you fight-by-fight breakdowns, fight-by-fight analysis, specifically from that betting perspective. Again, making sure we keep our commitment in 2022 to include a lot more boxing events on the channel. Looking at a pretty solid fight here on DAZN, Daniel Jacobs versus John Ryder. Let's get right to it. Let's not take too much time. Daniel Jacobs, it's been 15 months since his last fight. He had a split decision win over Gabe Rosado quite some time last year. He's not going to be somebody who's going to be flashy or explosive. Instead, he's really going to look to work that game plan. He's going to work off the jab. He's going to stay composed, doubles up, triples up that jab at times, head, body, head, body, body. Really a leading weapon for him that likes to dictate his offense. He is a bit of a slow starter, takes some time to read his opponents, but once he picks up the pace, look for increased activity, look for increased combos, look for better head movement from him once he really starts to get comfortable in there. Has good timing, good punch IQ, good jab straight combinations specifically. And as for his defense, it's decent. Good head movement. Like I said, I think he covers up pretty well. Solid movement to get out of the way of danger, especially when he resorts to that Philly-ish style of defense, which he seems to do at times and pretty often. I think we're going to see a lot of that in this fight versus John Ryder. John Ryder is somebody who has a lot more activity on the feet. He fought just 4 months ago. It was a KO win. Wasn't really the highest level of competition, though. He's a southpaw on the feet, just going back to that competition level. Joseph Jerko, don't even really know who that is. 7 wins, 4 losses. Again, wasn't really the highest level of competition. Mike Guy, again, 12 wins, 7 losses. Not really the highest level. But that's not to say he's been fighting a bunch of bums. I mean, he's been taking on some pretty decent fighters on the regional scene in the UK. Callum Smith, he fought as well. But yeah, like I said, going back to his activity, someone that's going to be a little bit more active on the feet. He's going to be coming forward a lot. And similar to Danny Jacobs, he likes to lead with that jab. He likes to come forward with good combinations, good pressure fighter. Looks like he picks his shots well as well. Stays low. He's going to be the shorter fighter of the two. Likes to stay low, likes to incorporate good head movement. And he's got some pretty good punches in close, good uppercuts, good short hooks, things like that. So in those clinch situations, I actually look for John Ryder to have the better exchanges of the two in those points. And to that point, he really enjoys inside fighting when he has the opportunity to do so. What's interesting about this fight, John Ryder from London, UK, this fight is happening in London, UK. So, he's going to be in his backyard. That's going to be something very key to note in this fight in terms of influence on the judges' scorecards. Unfortunately, in the boxing world, where you fight has a lot to do with how the judges score it. At 35 years old, you have to ask yourself on the Danny Jacobs side of things, how much does he have left? It's been a while since he's had a clean, unanimous decision win, actually April 2018 to be exact. In the meantime, he had a split decision win over Sergey Derevchenko. Of course, he lost to Canelo, although he did, win maybe 4 rounds, 5 rounds in that fight, so still had a decent performance. He beat Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., but it wasn't the most inspiring performance, and Chavez quit, essentially. And then he had that split decision win over Gabe Rosado, where a lot of people feel like Gabe Rosado won the fight. So it hasn't really had a clean performance in quite some time. And to that point, obviously, I'm not going to play the video. Otherwise, YouTube will definitely take this one down. But if you take a look at this conversation here, Daniel Jacobs and Andre Rozier, they talk about that fight. Danny Jacobs kind of addresses that. And he says, hey, this is an opportunity for me to kind of get my groove back, especially going in the opponent's backyard. I think there's a lot of reasons to see a much more inspiring and a much cleaner performance from Danny Jacobs. I mentioned the age at 35 years old. It's not like he's taking on a young gun who's 26, 25, still a prospect. He's taking on another vet, another respective vet, 33 years old, in John Ryder. I think like I said, the fact that Jacobs hasn't had really a clean win in 4 years, it's going to make him want to put on a high level performance to show that he still has it, at least as he mentioned in that video, as I mentioned on YouTube. Take a look at that one. I get a good vibe from how he feels in this fight. I think he knows he has to put on a better performance. And I think we're going to potentially see that. John Ryder is going to force Jacobs to work here. Jacobs has had issues in the past with not being active enough. Like I mentioned, some people feel he lost that Gabe Rosado fight. And I think it was due to lack of activity. But I think Jacobs knows what he's in for in this fight. I think he's going to do what he has to do to pull it out in enemy territory. He sounds ready to me. I think he's ready, and I think he'll pull it out. I mean, he's somebody who's been on the world stage a lot more. And although this is in the UK, this is still a respectable high level fight. So I'm going Danny Jacobs on this one. He's going to be my pick. We'll talk about specifics regarding the pick when we take it to Vegas after Zan's prediction. But from a perspective of who do I think is going to win this fight, I'm going with Daniel Jacobs.
Yeah, that's fair, man. There's a lot of things to like about Danny Jacobs in this fight here. He's fought the better guys. He's only really lost to Canelo and Gennady Golovkin. So he's basically winning all his fights that he's supposed to, and also against Pirogue. So he lost, and Pirogue was high level when he was boxing. So he only lost to the best. But again, as you indicated, that Rosado fight, I think he lost that fight. He looked really off. He didn't look interested in that fight. So that has me concerned about this fight because John Ryder is on a roll. This guy, in my opinion, hasn't lost a fight since 2016 against Jack Earnfield. In my opinion, he beat Caleb Smith in 2019. He should have got that decision, in my opinion. So he looks good. He looks good right now. He has that infighting going for him. They're fighting in England, obviously. And I think his forward pressure style could steal him some rounds. That pressure style could steal him a lot of rounds when he punches close, gets in on the inside, beats the body up, and he has good power. I think right now, Daniel Jacobs, he's uninspired. I'm gonna go with the underdog. I'm gonna call an upset here. I think John Ryder is catching Jacobs at the right time. I think he has a style that can give Jacobs a problem because Ryder can do this for 12 rounds. So I'm gonna go John Ryder here to get this one done, pull off the upset.
Let's take it to Vegas specifically at that point. I mean, of course, we see what the odds are. Jacobs at minus 163, John Ryder at plus 130. We don't need to talk too much about that. That kind of speaks for itself. In terms of method of victory, again, we're not really people that like to gamble on method. We more so like to go for the win in terms of who we feel is going to win the fight. But let's just kind of talk about it out of curiosity. What direction would you lean in? You like John Ryder in this fight to potentially pull off the upset. What direction are you going in? KO, decision?
Okay, if I look at Danny Jacobs, he didn't get knocked out by Canelo and Gennady Golovkin, Triple G. So I got to think he can handle the power here. So I would expect John Ryder to get a decision.
All right. So again,
and I think it's going to be a sketchy fight. Like they're in England, and again, I think it's one of those fights that it could be 6-6 on the majority of people's scorecards, and I think John Ryder is going to get that English love by the judges.
For sure, I can definitely see that happening. This is definitely a fight to throw some caution at in terms of the name recognition that Daniel Jacobs brings. But I mean, again, to your point with the picks, it kind of speaks for itself. John Ryder's a plus 130, which I think is good enough odds if you feel he's going to win to just keep it at that. If you were trying to go for some extra juice, I completely agree. John Ryder via decision would be that extra juice for a plus 240. I think Jacobs is going to win. So we see minus 160. And again, to my point, I like to go for the win. I think I would keep it at just Jacobs via win. But I called it in the Thurman fight as well. I thought if Thurman was going to win, I was pretty comfortable picking Thurman via decision due to the fact that I haven't seen Thurman really hurt anyone in the last several fights. And I feel the same about Daniel Jacobs. Although he has 30, 35, 37 wins or something like that, and although 30 of them are via KO, TKO, doesn't really have that power lately. And hasn't really been turning up the pace. So I think if Jacobs wins, it's a lot more likely to be via decision. Now, is a minus 163 for just the win swinging to only a plus 120 worth specifically betting on decision? Maybe not. Keith Thurman fight was a lot different. Thurman was a plus 270 for decision, so that was really worth it to me. I think it was plus 270 if I remember, but nonetheless, I don't see this as enough of a swing to make me want to bet decision. So I'm a lot more likely to just simply bet Daniel Jacobs straight up to get the win. I might even parlay it with some other events that are taking place in combat sports in general on that day. So, two opposite sides of the fence here. You are going to have these moments with our boxing predictions, and that's what makes it really interesting. So let us know in the comments. How do you feel about this fight? Who do you think is going to win? Do you think being in the UK is going to make a difference? Do you think John Ryder's activity is too much? Do you think Ryder's catching Jacobs at the right time, as Zan had mentioned? Do you think Jacobs is going to have a much more inspiring performance versus the last 4 years of his career? So a lot of question marks in this fight, and that makes it a really intriguing fight. I'm really curious to see what happens once the fight day comes. But let's officially sign off there. Of course, make sure you subscribe to the channel here at Boxing MMA Picks. Make sure you hit the thumbs up on this video. And like I said, make sure you participate in the comments. We want to hear from you. But he goes by the name of Zan. I go by the name of Harris. And in our usual Boxing MMA Picks fashion, let's get this money.
Let's do it.